In 2007, the medieval town of Perugia became the center of an international mystery. An American exchange student, Amanda Knox, found herself at the heart of one of the most infamous murder cases in modern history. Was she a cold-blooded killer, or an innocent young woman caught in the web of a foreign justice system and media frenzy? This is the story of Amanda Knox and the murder of Meredith Kercher. On November 1, 2007, 21-year-old British exchange student Meredith Kercher was brutally murdered in her apartment. She had been stabbed multiple times, and her throat was slashed. The crime scene was gruesome, and there were clear signs of a struggle and sexual assault. Her body was discovered beneath a duvet in her bedroom, a tragic end to a promising young life. But what happened that night? And how did Amanda Knox, her American roommate, become embroiled in this horrific crime? Amanda Knox was a 20-year-old student from Seattle, Washington, studying abroad in Italy. She shared an apartment with Meredith and two other Italian women. At the time of the murder, Knox had been dating 23-year-old Raffaele Sollecito, a quiet and reserved Italian computer science student. Just days into the investigation, the couple's behavior began to raise suspicions. Police noted that Amanda and Raffaele were seen kissing and laughing outside the apartment as officers investigated the crime scene. Their seemingly carefree attitude struck many as strange, considering the horrific nature of the crime. Amanda's conflicting statements during early police questioning only added fuel to the fire. Amanda Knox was brought in for questioning multiple times in the days following the murder. She would later claim that the Italian police interrogated her for hours on end, without a lawyer present, and subjected her to intense psychological pressure. At one point, Amanda broke down and told investigators that she had been in the apartment the night Meredith was killed, but she didn't remember everything clearly. This confession, which she later retracted, implicated both herself and her employer, a local bar owner named Patrick Lumumba. Knox would later argue that this confession was coerced under duress. But by then, the damage was done. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were arrested and charged with Meredith's murder. While Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were being interrogated and portrayed as prime suspects, another figure came into the picture, Rudy Guede. Guede was a known petty criminal who had fled Italy shortly after the murder. DNA evidence linked Guede to the crime scene. His fingerprints were found in Meredith's bedroom, and his DNA was on her body and inside her. Guede later admitted to being in the apartment that night, but denied killing Meredith. He claimed that while he was in the bathroom, someone else entered the apartment and committed the murder. Guede was convicted in a separate fast-track trial and sentenced to 30 years in prison, later reduced to 16 years on appeal. Despite his conviction, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito remained on trial. As the trial unfolded, Amanda Knox became a global media sensation. The press painted her as a promiscuous and cunning femme fatale, giving her the nickname Foxy Knoxy. Every detail of her life was scrutinized, from her relationships to her behavior in court. Meanwhile, Raffaele Sollecito was cast as her devoted accomplice, and the world watched in shock as the case took on a life of its own. The Italian press, in particular, seemed eager to portray Knox as guilty, and the sensationalized coverage began to overshadow the actual evidence presented in court. But was there enough solid evidence to convict? In 2009, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were convicted of murder, sexual assault, and defamation. The prosecution argued that the murder had been the result of a drug-fueled sex game gone wrong, although much of the evidence was circumstantial. Knox was sentenced to 26 years in prison, and Sollecito received a 25-year sentence. However, questions about the validity of the evidence persisted. Key pieces of evidence, such as a knife and a bra clasp allegedly linking Amanda and Raffaele to the crime, were later found to be highly questionable. DNA tests were inconclusive, and the defense argued that the evidence had been contaminated. Yet, despite these inconsistencies, the pair remained behind bars. In 2011, after serving 4 years in prison, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito's convictions were overturned on appeal. The court cited major flaws in the investigation, including the mishandling of forensic evidence. Knox returned home to Seattle, and for a brief time, it seemed that the case was finally over. But the Italian legal system had other plans. In 2013, Italy's Supreme Court ordered a retrial. And in 2014, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were once again convicted of murder in absentia. This decision shocked many, as the evidence remained as weak as it had been during the first trial. But in 2015, the Italian Supreme Court definitively acquitted both Knox and Sollecito, declaring them innocent. After her final acquittal, Amanda Knox returned to the U.S. and began to rebuild her life. She became an advocate for those wrongfully convicted and has written a memoir about her experiences. But public opinion remains divided. Some see Knox as a victim of a flawed justice system, while others still harbor doubts about her innocence. The Amanda Knox case remains one of the most controversial legal battles of the 21st century, a story of justice, media sensationalism, and the dangers of wrongful conviction. Over a decade later, the murder of Meredith Kercher still haunts the quiet town of Perugia. And while Amanda Knox may have moved on, the case serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly lives can be turned upside down by the rush to judgment. In the end, we may never know the full truth of what happened that night, but one thing is certain. This case will continue to captivate the world for years to come.